Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Cleveland Heights City Council Public Safety and Health Committee meeting. It's October 7th. It's 5:00 p.m. We're in the City Hall Executive Conference Room. Members of the committee are myself. I'm present. Vice Chair is Gail Larson.
Present.
And a member is Councilman Craig Cobb.
Present.
Also joining us this afternoon is Councilmember Petrus, who is going to be listening in and can participate as if he's a member. We're going to do a quick adjustment. Yes.
I need to leave at 5:50. So
5:50. I think we're all going to try to finish this meeting up at around 5:45 so we can get at we have a council meeting at 6:30 this evening and we have to prepare for that. So I think we're going to try to finish that up. But in order to make sure that we're giving everybody enough time to discuss the other items in the agenda, and because of the short squeeze of this meeting, our discussion with Chief Britton on council's assistance with public safety needs, we're going to hold that until our next meeting, which I'll let you know on a later date when that's going to be. The purpose of that meeting was to go over some traffic safety information that was made available, and also to discuss what can be done regarding enhancing traffic safety needs in this coming 2026 budget cycle. We're going to be starting in November. So that would mean the first item we have tonight is a discussion with the Cleveland Heights for immigration rights. I asked to have this put on the agenda. So this organization has been presenting to council, not presenting to council, but making plenty of public statements in our council meetings. They have provided a proposal for us to review, and in order to honor them and their work, I thought it was important that we would talk about it. I do know that several other council members, like Council Member Larson, has expressed interest in learning a little bit more. And I think we're at a stage where I think we should try to figure out what we could do, if anything, in reaction to what we have in front of us. I have spoken to some of their leaders, and we agreed to maybe get a short presentation. It could be a little longer than 5 minutes if you need it, because we've adjusted some things. So please introduce yourself and tell us what you have to say.
Yeah, thank you. If we could move to the next slide.
If you want someone to control, or I can give you the controller.
There's only 3 slides, so it shouldn't get too complicated.
Give it a try.
Maybe paraphrase.
Woo, right. Let's see. My name is Sheila Keller. I'm with Cleveland Heights for Immigrant Rights. Thank you for having us here today. Thank you, Petrus, for being here, even though you're not part of the safety committee. That is noted. It's also noted who is not here today. We are paying attention to who is responding to this call from this overwhelming group of people in our community. Cleveland Heights for Immigrant Rights started after the raid in Cilantro that all of us are aware of. It was a group of people in this room and more who said this is a time that we can't sit back anymore and watch neighbors be terrorized by our own government. And we canvassed businesses, we asked businesses to sign a pledge that said they support immigrant rights, and we have over 80 businesses that signed that pledge and counting. And that was really affirming of this spirit of Cleveland Heights that we know is true, that we're a welcoming city. Oh, thank you for being here.
Okay, I hate to say it, but we do need to we have a chair right here. And one moment, just for your awareness, council member, one camera this evening, no lights, we're on record. We adjusted that's right, and we adjusted our agenda to remove the part with police chief, so this got started.
Thanks for being here. So that did affirm to us that we are the welcoming city that we say we are, but we want to see that put into action. We know that we're a city that believes deeply in diversity and in being welcoming to all people, but those words are empty without action. And so we're giving you an opportunity through this proposal to really put our money where our mouth is and our actions where our values are. I just want to put into context why we think this is so important right now. And then as you can see on the slideshow, we have Lynn Tremonti from the Ohio Immigrant Alliance going to talk about how this affects real people in our community and why we think legal counsel is the answer or one of the answers right now. Then outline our proposal and the logistics of it, which will be done by Laura, who is a local immigrant rights lawyer. And then we have heard a number of barriers or questions posed, through the grapevine, through city council members that we want to debunk and move away from and move on and jump over, because all of them we can debunk. So for folks who are not paying attention, and I think everyone here is, our own government is attacking cities and people in cities. They're calling in the National Guard, and they are making Black and brown people the target of the military. We're seeing children being zip tied, taken out of their homes, taken away from their families, separated from their families. And we're also seeing mayors step up all over the country and say, not in our city. So just this week, the mayor of Chicago, he stood up and he declared Chicago a no ICE zone in an executive order. Just last week or so, Portland mayor did something similar and stood up and said, not in our city. This is not our values and you won't attack our people. And so we're asking Cleveland Heights to be a part of that. I work for a national union in a racial and social justice department. And right now, my colleagues who are mostly Black and brown and our members are saying, we've known that this is an issue that's attacking queer, Black and brown people. And if we don't stand up now, we're going to be the next ones. So we're seeing a rise of authoritarianism. This is undeniable. And this is a way that we can fight back as a city. This is a way we can draw a line in the sand. And we believe that legal counsel is a very sound way to do that. And we'll be presenting to you tonight some of those details and allowing you to ask questions. And thank you for taking this time. But we also have a request of you, which is after this presentation, you take the next steps. My understanding is that would be that you would pose this for a vote within the safety committee so that it could then be brought to the larger city council. And that's what we're hoping will happen after we've answered any questions, cleared up any doubts, so that we can move forward with this proposal. So thank you. I'm gonna give my seat to Lynn.
Okay, Sheila. Hi, my name is Lynn Tremonti. I'm with the Ohio Immigrant Alliance. I'm going to be real quick. So I'm not going to get into any details because I need to maintain privacy, but there are hundreds of people in Cleveland Heights who are in perilous immigration status. The Trump administration is taking people who currently have legal status and making them vulnerable to deportation. I work with many people who have immigration court cases at the Cleveland Immigration Court who live in Cleveland Heights. Somebody I know was arrested about 4 weeks ago at his home. About 2 weeks after that, 2 people were arrested at their home in Cleveland Heights. That was reported in the news. The other person's arrest was not. I was with a young man at immigration court maybe 2 months ago. He and a witness they both live in Cleveland Heights. We had heard that ICE was in the building. There was about an hour of panic where they thought they were coming for him or the witness. I can't tell you the terror on their faces. They thought they were going to be put in jail and sent back to a country where they would be killed. These are your neighbors. They walk down the street while you're walking your dog, and they are so happy to be here. They love living in Cleveland Heights. I mean, they love their neighbors. They love their neighborhood. This is the happiest they've ever been is living here. But you won't know that by looking at them. You're never going to know that. So I know that there's been a question about whether this is needed in Cleveland Heights. There's an assumption that we don't have undocumented people in Cleveland Heights. Again, you can't know by looking. And then again, the Trump administration is taking people who either currently are legal or are working through a process or should be legal. One of the people I'm talking about, he has a citizen girlfriend. they're trying to get married. Even if they can get married, he's in immigration jail right now. Even if they can get married, that doesn't mean that he's gonna be able to avoid being deported. The country that where he was from, he was actually put in jail in the country he was from. Everybody in his jail was killed except for him. So these are things, I mean, this is what is at stake. There's other things going on too. You know, you saw students losing their visa status recently. You're seeing people losing temporary protected status. You're seeing students and other young people losing DACA. I mean, the people that have DACA are not even young anymore. They're old, right? Like they've been here for 35 years. They have kids. And so these are all the different nuances of people that live in Cleveland Heights. And also, I think, frankly, having Cleveland Heights pass something like this, you'd be the second city in Ohio after Columbus, sends a message, like Sheila said, Cleveland Heights is standing behind our values. Legal counsel, it's one of the only immigration policy proposals that's never been sued on. There's hundreds of cities around the country that have enacted this and nobody's sued on it because there's nothing to sue on. It's paying for a lawyer and the immigrants have the right to a lawyer. So the government can't sue on it because it's just a question of who's paying for it. So it's actually the least controversial thing you could possibly do, but it's the most consequential. And I guess the last thing I'll say is that if they do bring the National Guard to Cleveland, which who knows if they will or won't, but if you look at what's going on in Chicago with the way that they're handling ICE there, it doesn't just touch the actual city, like the city of Chicago is not only implicated, or in Washington, DC, they've got, you know, things going on. It's the surrounding areas too. So Cleveland Heights is going to be harmed if we get added enforcement in Cleveland. So we have to be ready for that, and having some protections in Cleveland Heights, I think, is the way to go. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lara Nakamovitz. I'm an attorney in Cleveland. Our firm is called LSM Legal. And we were very involved in drafting the proposal for the provision of legal services. We already provide significant legal services at no cost to our clients throughout Ohio, but those are very specific. There's very specific categories of people who do and don't qualify. And apart from living in Ohio, that's typically only children who enter the country without their parents. So this would be a broader proposal in terms of who would qualify. It would be more narrow, obviously, because it would only be open to residents of Cleveland Heights. There are two buckets to the proposal, I would say. There's the direct services, and then there is also, we've proposed legal clinics. So we would be able to provide direct services to a limited number of people, and I'll talk about how we would identify those people in a second. But in addition to that, with the legal clinics that we've proposed, anyone could come and on a first come, first served basis, have their case evaluated. If they're not eligible for the services that are being offered under the proposal, we could help them identify someone who may be able to take their case either pro bono or low bono. We already have relationships with nonprofits in the area, with other attorneys in the area who may be willing to take the cases, because our proposal for direct representation also only covers people who are currently in removal proceedings. So if you are not currently facing deportation, like the scope of what someone could be seeking is just simply too broad to say that any immigrant, anyone who wants to seek legal services would be eligible. But again, through those clinics, we would be able to analyze people's cases, give them a high view of these are the questions you should be asking when you're interviewing attorneys. These are some reputable attorneys. These are people who are unauthorized to do the practice of law, who you should definitely avoid using their services because that's a really big problem. Those clinics would be advertised. First of all, when you do programs like this, it spreads like wildfire. We would have them in a predictable location. My understanding is that the libraries have indicated that they'll be willing to help to advertise the programs. I know that, for example, Tri-C, I believe, already uses the library to offer English classes. Like we can give them a flyer to hand out. And through word of mouth, I have no doubt based on my prior experience. Yes, go ahead.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just,
Okay.
I didn't want you to keep going. I just had a quick question about what you were saying. Is this part of the program, is this something that Columbus has also done, this next step? I was just curious if this is something we would kind of be taking a lead on at all, or if this is part of what you've seen done before.
So the answer is I don't know, and also yes, people have done this. So I don't know if specifically Columbus, the city, has done this, but for example, I know that Legal Services of Southeast and Central Ohio offer these types of clinics all of the time, usually for a specific program, and we would do that as well. So we would have these regular clinics, but also let's say that TPS magically comes back. TPS is temporary protected status. We would have a TPS clinic. So anyone who's eligible, we would help them to appropriately fill out their documentation, make sure that they knew where to send it, which is often very confusing. There is a possibility that DACA will come back. It's complicated logistically, but again, if the court in Texas were to say, okay, DACA's back, that would be the first thing that we do is we'd have a DACA clinic, because even though, as Lynn pointed out, the people with DACA have been here for 35 years, I still know they're not kids, but young adults in Northeast Ohio whose DACA has been stuck because, for example, at the time that when it was open, maybe they hadn't finished school yet and they've since gotten their GEDs, so they would now be eligible and the initial applications. So we would do a clinic for that, and those have definitely been done, if not by the city, within the city by the legal service providers. And again, to the extent that we identify people who show up for those clinics as eligible for our program, we can sign them up for services. If, to the extent that those clinics don't fill up the direct representation need, again, I think there are a number of ways that people would learn about our program. One, I think we'd send something out in the mail to Cleveland Heights residents, ideally, to let them know that this existed. This is how they can contact us to set up an intake.
And that's just, so would that be in the proposal, if you were to do a mailing, would come out of the investment Cleveland Heights would be making in that in the project?
Yes, so like part of the funding would be to do the mailing. We would obviously need the city's cooperation because I don't magically have, we don't have the addresses or know who to get it out to. But we would use part of that funding for the mailing through the libraries and through word of mouth. We already, again, we're fairly tied into the community. We already represent a number of people here, again, due to confidentiality. I obviously can't share about the details of those cases, but I think that if people heard that this was available, they would come and they would seek services. There are two things I just want to add quickly that relate to the logistics and to the reason that this is important. Right now, the majority of new clients that my firm is seeing who are not clients who are being served by these other pro bono projects are people who have been in the country for a long time and maybe are permanent residents whose status is at risk or something similar. And part of the reason for that is because asylum has been attacked in so many ways. People do not want to sit in detention fighting for asylum. So when we're talking about the immigrants who may be eligible, I want to dissuade you all from thinking that those are just people who are undocumented. Many of these are long-term community members who, for one reason or another, never naturalized. Lots of people don't naturalize. There are 100 reasons you might not naturalize. And then under this new administration and this new scorched fire approach, suddenly that's a problem where it never has been in the past. And two, people right now, because the laws are so strict, are less likely to pay out of pocket for an attorney. More people are just accepting often ridiculous and probably illegal offers to accept their deportation because detention is psychological torture and they feel so hopeless. And this program and providing people with legal counsel provides hope and allows people to continue to fight for the lives that they have built. So I welcome any questions, but I think that that's the end of my portion.
Laura, what are your current funding sources?
So we currently have two primary funding sources. Our firm is not a nonprofit, just to be totally transparent. But we are funded by the Acacia Center for Justice. And that work is specifically to provide services to unaccompanied children. We are the only firm or legal service provider statewide who provides services at no cost to the children in all 88 Ohio counties. We also provide services to children who are currently in government custody. Because of some logistics, the kids we're serving in detention right now are in Texas, not Ohio. But so that's about 50% of our work. And then about 50% of our work are private paying clients whom we serve on a sliding scale, an informal sliding scale fee based on the length of time that we've had a relationship with them, the complexity of their case. There's some ethical things that I take into consideration, like for better or for worse for my business, I believe that everybody has a right to counsel. The law provides that, and I believe that everybody should have access to counsel. But I personally struggle with charging people full price for a case that is not winnable when what we're doing is winning them time and dignity. So all of that goes into our informal sliding scale. But again, like I said, both private pay and then Acacia for the unaccompanied minors. We are currently in the process of beginning another grant program, and that would be specifically to provide services to people who are detained and deemed incompetent, which is a very narrow definition.
Thank you.
I mean, just so we have an idea of time frame here, I'd really like to be able to wrap this up at 5:40, so we've got enough time. But I want to make sure we can talk about process and discuss. I mean, there's still, I've got a lot of questions about the proposal, but I mean, let's just try to focus on process, because I think if we're okay with the committee going that route, I mean, we're not a big municipality.
Right.
Okay. I mean, normally what would happen, and we don't have programs that can be approved like Columbus that you may have not even needed city council approval. Maybe the mayor was just able to approve, something at, a couple $100,000 spend. I don't know what their spending authority is, but our spending authority is $50,000. Or that's when council has to get involved, which is, I think, obviously why you folks are here. Legislation normally gets developed on a table like this with a committee, or it gets developed with sort of a seed idea at our council meetings as a whole, which is not maybe fully vetted out, but then it goes to the law department and the administration, and it's their job to put together, all the legal work and everything like that, which is not something that, I mean, we're not all lawyers. But I mean, that's generally the way it works. I mean, there is, regrettably, your timing is not good. And I'm going to tell you that because you've seen, we have the press in the room here, but look how many months of press that we've had in front of us. And, I'm going to go on a limb and say our government has been dysfunction, but I mean, we've got huge projects that aren't getting done right now because we don't have the staff to do it. We're trying to get the staff. Last year, we had about $9 million worth of freed up money because we didn't have the number of employees that we needed to have. So we've got problems just to try to keep the city functioning. There's another $10 million plus of capital improvements that wasn't done. We've got things like cameras that we've purchased 2 years ago that are sitting in a warehouse that have never been put on poles. I mean, there's a lot of competing priorities. And please don't interpret this where I'm trying to take your priority and push it down. I'm just saying there's a lot in the bucket, okay? And I'm not gonna tell you what's more important or not, because I think each one of us may feel differently about that, just saying. But right now, we're having a little bit of an infight right now about trying to get a merchant association set up for our noble businesses, which is an important thing. It's hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of opportunity for this neighborhood. And it just not involves the law department, but it involves the finance. It involves a lot of departments just trying to get that kind of legislation through for about $180,000 investment. And that's been going on for months. And I know your priority is, I mean, you're asking for help now, and I understand that, I get it. I mean, you guys are focusing on what I believe is a big problem that needs to get solved, okay? What I'm trying to softly guide you through, and maybe if any of you want to back me up on this, I mean, it's taken us a long time to get stuff done. Now, I will tell you, I am thrilled with the council that we have now. We've shown that we can get stuff done in the last week or two. We've got an excellent new president that's working hard. We've got a president that has moved to the mayor for a short term. I mean, but that's just putting out fires right now. Just saying. So if the expectation is that if we can get something, done by our next council meeting, that's regrettably not realistic. And there's so much stuff that you can look at all the other things that have been piling up. I'm glad that you focused this on one item.
So I guess I would say, I mean, understanding all that, we've heard other concerns that are not true, things like Columbus was put on a sanctuary, on a watch list or a DHS watch list. Once they did that, that's patently not true. We've heard many different other excuses, so I can't speak for the group about the priority of this versus Noble Business District. I think Noble Business District is very important, I understand that. But what I would like to say then is if let's dispel all the inaccuracies that have been floating around. And I think there's some people here who could do that. And then secondly, what timeline can you lay out? What can you commit to by when so that we can move it forward?
I just wanted to share a couple of thoughts. Number one, I appreciate everyone coming in. It's no secret that I'm 100% in support of this. In fact, I've stated I would like to try to do everything that was suggested. I'm at a place where I'm watching what's happening across the country, and there is no proper time for me other than right now to step in and do something. I truly believe that who Cleveland Heights is and the position that we are, that we could take the lead on this and should take the lead on this, absolutely. I do know that we do have a lot on our shoulders, but if there's any way we could at least put something together, a project team or a task force or anything to really push this forward, even to prepare for a new administration to kind of see what direction they want to take it in, I would definitely want to do something here. Again, for everyone watching this, in the room, again, I want to be completely transparent. I'm in go mode with this. This is the type of thing that keeps me up at night. And even sitting at this end of the table, I'm reminded of the conversations that were had even during the civil rights movement that were happening even up north about how to get involved and when to get involved and what that looks like, how to budget, how to strategize. But what I was reminded of sitting here is that while those conversations were happening up north, people were still catching hell down south. And so, but now we see it across the country. It's not just down south. It's in every portion. And so while that's happening, while we're planning and we're thinking, there's still someone else that's being snatched away, someone else is being sent away, someone else is going through this process. And many of them live right here. And so I just want you to know I'm open to doing something, even if it's getting that ball rolling now, something that we can put together for any incoming administration to be able to say that this is something they want to take a look at. The good thing is that no matter who the mayor is, they're on council right now. And so that gives us some type of conversation or a starting point to at least have. And I don't want to put any pressure on my council colleagues. If there's a way that we can do anything, if there's a way that we can work even with an outside agency to help partner with us to get it done, I'm completely open with it. I just know that time is of the essence. Every moment that we have this conversation, someone else's life is being impacted by that. And I'm just reminded of the years that went by in some cases while folks stood on the sidelines to find the right process and the right time for something. There really isn't a right time for this, a perfect time for this. I believe that we're at war. We are completely at war. And we're at war with ourselves, unfortunately. And so I think we have an opportunity to be able to do something about that. And I think this does put us in a position where there could be a target, and I've said that publicly. I think I'm okay with that because the first person through the door is always going to get hit. I say that no matter what you're doing as an activist, you know that, but you make it so much easier for everyone else, and the floodgates open. And so I'm okay if we take that hit if we're the first one through the door, as long as other cities can rise up and say, but they survived once they got through it. And so anything that we can do to spark that across other municipalities, I think will be helpful. And that's why I really want to get this done. It's not just for our other residents, but to set an example and a standard for other communities that maybe don't have that kind of boldness to say we can do something. And so that's what I want to do.
Okay, don't want to challenge you,
No,
but
but,
I mean, this is really outside the scope of what a municipality does. So, and we're an organization that is.
If I may.
So, well, hold on a second. Who, if there was a task force, who? I mean, you'd normally have like a mayor's office that has a staff that might be able to take on a special project. We don't have any. We don't have anything like that.
And that's what I've been going back and forth at, we've got council, we've got outside organizations for the administrative side. What does that look like in terms of their current involvement over the next 90 days in any way that looks like? And that's what I'm curious about as well in terms of from a council standpoint, because we could absolutely get the ball rolling. But that administrative piece, because it's so temporary right now, I don't know what that portion looks like. Because in my thinking, that task force would absolutely involve someone with the administration, council, outside organizations to be able to take a look at that. And I would also like to see if someone from even Columbus could help kind of navigate what they did through that. Someone we could have that point of contact with. But the administration is, for me, that's my sticking point, is figuring out what that looks like in our current state of transition.
Yeah.
That's my biggest problem.
And I'm stuck with that. I'm stuck with that too.
As a committee member, I would also say that that's where I'm at, because we need someone in the administration in January who will look at this seriously, whatever we prepare something, and be able to implement, because there's implementation required on the part of the administration. It's not just giving money. There is a program in place. And granted, we could look at it and modify the program, right, to fit the needs of the city or the staffing of the city, but there's still administration that needs to be involved in being the center of when someone is in need and helping them get through it knowledgeably and with safety for everyone. So I don't know what that looks like, Councilor Maddox, because that mayor deserves to have something put before them that's been well thought out and taking in mind what Cleveland Heights is and what we profess to be, but also what are the parameters of our budget and the staffing. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm sorry. I would really appreciate the fact that we are not taking this unseriously. And I know how passionate y'all are. I believe in the believe in this. But we also have to make sure that it's something that will be implemented. What good would it do us if we pass a legislation and it just sat there? Would that help anybody?
I think we're in really unique times, and I know that you're all passionate about figuring out how to get this done, and we really do appreciate that. And that's where we are, but I think we are not in ordinary times. I mean, We are 260 days since this was described, immigration was described as an invasion. 260 days since we were told that courthouses, schools, and places of worships would no longer be protected. 254 days since our own attack on Cilantro Taqueria. 7 months since ICE agents began wearing masks. We've normalized that. 7 months since Kilmar Abrego Garcia was taken to Seacoast. 4 months since Trump sent thousands of National Guards and 700 Marines to occupy a few blocks of Los Angeles. 4 months since Trump ordered 3,000 immigrants deported every day. 3 months since DHS reduced qualification, training time, and background checks for ICE agents, putting another 10,000 agents on the ground, $29 billion additional dollars. And I'm saying this not because you don't know it, but because it normalizes. We are 8 days 2 months since Trump sent 500 federal agents and 800 National Guard troops to occupy Washington, D.C., arresting and finding homeless people, clearing encampments, $134 million in and another $1 million each day. 8 days since ICE, the FBI, and National Guards ripped people out of Chicago's South Shore. In the middle of the night, 40-some people, children naked on the street, zip-tied. We're normalizing this stuff. It's 6 days since the federal government shut down, but ICE and Homeland Security are still going. We are 4 days since ICE agents threw a chemical canister in the street outside Funston Elementary School on Chicago's Logan Square, gassing adults and children out at recess. And we are normalizing this stuff. It is 4 days since ICE agents arrested Chicago alderperson Jesse Fuentes at a hospital where she was visiting a man, one of her constituents, who had broken his leg in an ICE raid. 3 days since ICE agents knocked down an 84-year-old peaceful protester in Portland, bleeding from her head because she was in the way. And I know you know this, we've all seen it on the news, but we're normalizing this stuff, and we have to do things differently.
We're in agreement with all that, okay? I mean, I can't speak with everybody, okay?
If I can just jump in quickly, I think the beauty of what we're proposing is that it's essentially a contract that the city would enter with a legal service provider that would handle most of the implementation. The structure of our proposal is not just based on similar programs in other cities like in Columbus, but it's also based on the right to counsel legislation that was passed in the city of Cleveland, wherein they entered a contract with the Legal Aid Society to provide eviction defense. So I completely appreciate the concerns that you all have in terms of implementation and the challenges faced in the city. But I think Jamie's point is that this is urgent. A lot of the concerns that are expressed about what if there's a crackdown, what if we're targeted, what if we lose funding, are somewhat ambiguous. But the threat of ICE coming into our community and kidnapping people and children and separating families and sending them away is not a question of if, but when is it gonna happen again?
So that's not what they're telling us right now. What they're telling us now is that they don't know how to get it moving. So let's brainstorm that. So you need a point person or you need something, what do you need to get it moving?
Can we have Councilman
Thank you.
speak, please?
Just want to thank everyone for coming today. I have had 3 lengthy conversations with the group and I understand the proposal. I understand, for example, that it's not easy for us to just farm this out to Legal Aid Society. I understand that there are capacity challenges with those groups, and that's why the group settled on this proposal. In the conversations, I've tried to make sure that people are setting expectations appropriately. I don't want people to be disappointed by a perceived lack of progress. The reality is, as Councilman Posh said, that there are severe capacity constraints at City Hall, and we greatly appreciate that some drafted language was drafted up, but the law department has told us repeatedly that they do not want council members drafting legislation, that they don't want council members taking things that outside lawyers have written without knowing the unique ordinances here. And so I would support requesting that the law department start the process of researching things and trying to put together a program that might be feasible, with the understanding that this is something that's going to take time. Many things that work its way through council will take 6 months, even longer, a year or longer. There are things that we've been working on that have taken over a year. And so realistically, I think that while we all agree this is a pressing issue that needs attention now, the reality is that it's going to take some time, but I support requesting that the law department begin the research.
Okay, so maybe that's the answer that I asked you. I mean, who do we have look at this?
It's a great starting point. I think it at least gives us an idea of what we can do based on our city and how it's set up. I think that, it'll help flesh through some of that with the law department. My question is, I just hate to stick it over there without giving some type of timeline
Yeah.
or something
Thank
for
you.
that.
We want a
That's-
timeline and a next step. That's how business works everywhere.
I
That's
don't-
how a city works everywhere.
But actually, we're totally separate from the law department, okay? The law department is part of the administration. They don't work for us. They work for the mayor.
Let's
And
talk
they already
about-
have our
I think that's
I
proposal.
something-
can't,
Just so you know, they have our proposal already as of 2 weeks ago. We talked to them outside of city council after a city council meeting, said, could we give this to you directly? And he said, yeah, a lot of council members have already said that this is important and I should take a look at it. So he does have it. So then what would the next step be? And I do wanna clarify, this is a municipal issue. Over 70 municipalities around the country have passed similar legislation. We may not get to it today, but as you can see up there, we recognize all of the myths that have been spread, you know, amongst city council members or perhaps broader. It does not violate any federal or state law. Michael is here to address that. There are over 70 municipalities that have passed similar legislation, including Columbus. None have been put on a watch list or sued. The proposal does not put us at risk for federal funding. Natalie can speak to that tonight. It's affordable when we look at our budget. Rachel can speak to that. And we have to act now, as Jamie highlighted. So we wanted to address all of those with you. We may not have time tonight, but people are prepared to respond to all of those now so we can jump over them. And we understand it takes 6 months or longer. That's why we wanna take the next steps now.
Okay, I don't think the other items, and you know, the majority of council is here, and you know, not that we all hang out together, because that really doesn't happen, but I mean, some of the pushback that I'm hearing must be coming from a council member that's not at the table, because I'm not hearing that. Or at least I'm not hearing it in a vocal sense right now that is putting a stop to anything that we're doing. We do need to move on, and I do think the next best step is for myself to have a conversation with the law director.
Okay.
And see where they're at and update everybody accordingly. You asked for a timeline. When we meet next, we'll have an answer. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Okay.
How often does the safety committee meet?
It means once a month.
So after
But-
next month's meeting, you'll have an answer.
At next month's meeting?
At next month's meeting, whenever we meet again, I will be able to get with the law director. There's a couple things that we've put off regarding public safety, regarding the police chief and a budget process. I mean, kind of keep in mind, the busiest time council has is during the budget season, which is the one big thing that we impact, and we don't have all our numbers. I mean, we just got July's numbers. We got the numbers as of the end of June. We don't have any good estimates at the end of the year. We don't have audited financial statements. We really don't know where we're at financially. That's a whole nother issue. And I gotta tell you, that is clearly a municipal issue that we gotta keep our eyes on. But I owe it to you guys to work with the law director and see what they interpret this as.
Great, and we're confident that there is no state, federal law that it's gonna be violating. So then after that, we hope we can continue to find what is the next step and plod forward,
Wait, I'm
you
sorry,
know.
so your conversation with the law director is to ask them to work on this, that's what your conversation
No,
with
it's to
them.
ask them, are they the right group? Have they seen this before? Just give us a little play. I mean, just
Our request is for you to ask them to work on this, that's what we're clear on.
I don't know what kind of time frame that they have. I don't.
You're confusing me.
No,
You
I'm not
keep changing what you're
confusing.
talking about.
I don't know what their schedule of work is.
But we want you to ask them to work on it whether it's that they
I-
can work on it this year or
I
when
don't,
it's the start.
I have no authority to tell them what to do, okay?
I don't understand
What I
your
can do,
conversation is with them.
please listen, what I can do is I can discuss the proposal with them and see where that fits in their line of work and how they can fit this in. I can also talk to the mayor too, who they do work for, and see, can you adjust any priorities? What can you do? That's what I can do, but I cannot command or tell the law department they need to do something in 30 days or 60 days or 90 days.
But you can say, we would like you to work on this, isn't that part of?
They are working on a lot of stuff, and how long are you waiting for some of your legislation?
90 days at
That
least.
doesn't mean you
Yeah, I
can't
mean,
say
so
you would
I'm
like
trying
to
to,
work on this at this
instead of
point.
just telling them, please work on this, I'm trying to get a sense of, can you do this, when you can do it? I'm giving you more than just asking them to work on it.
I'm very confused about whether you're supporting the proposal or not. Are you supporting the proposal?
I need to hear from staff. I need to know if we can actually do this as a city. Is it a good idea? Do I like the idea? Absolutely. And I'm willing to take it forward? Absolutely. Okay, so yeah. Am I supporting it at this point? Yeah, I am. I just need to see how far we can take it. And I also need to see, I mean, why are the only what, 2 cities in Ohio that are doing this? Or just one?
We'd be the second.
We'd be the second. So I need to see why we're not doing. So maybe talk to the Municipal League of Cities to see how many other cities are doing this. I mean, I need to do some research on myself on this, okay?
But please do it. I mean, I guess what we're asking for is what anybody would be asking for in a workplace. And this is a workplace, right? You all work for the city of Cleveland Heights. You work for the people who are sitting here right now. What are the tangible next steps and the timeline that we can expect them in? I don't think going out and speaking to every other city in the state of Ohio is gonna be useful.
No, it's not, but we are in a state of dysfunction in the city, okay? You picking Cleveland Heights for this is, I wish you picked a city like Beechwood that had a lot of money, okay? That's well functional, okay? They could get their stuff done. We can't get our stuff done. We just recalled our mayor because we couldn't do it. We had a majority of citizens recalling a mayor. That is a huge step, okay? To completely try to think that we're not in this stage and we can get this done
And
quickly.
say, listen, we can't do it this year.
We're just saying to take a next step that's tangible with a timeline. That's what we're saying. We're not saying that we expect you to have this passed in a month. We understand that's not realistic. But bringing it forward to the law director with the request that he work on it. And then
Absolutely.
saying what the next step would be after that, because he can come back and say who knows what, but we wanna know we're taking steps forward.
So what's gonna happen is he is not gonna give me an answer. He's gonna work with the city administrator, he's gonna work with the mayor, and they're gonna come up with priorities, okay? And I can work through some of that, okay? But we just don't know until we work with the administration on this. The administration has to execute on this. I used an example of traffic cameras before.
I'm sorry, sounds like you're not sure where you stand on it. It sounds like Councilmember Maddox knows where he stands on it. It sounds like you're not sure where you stand on it. I don't know where you stand on it,
No, that's
Councilmember
not
Cox.
true. No, it's not true.
I think that's really unfortunate to say when I invited you here to this meeting.
That's what I can't.
There's all these things on Facebook where there's a lot of bullying that's going on. And I think you need to take a step back and listen to what we're telling you instead of putting words in my mouth right now.
I'm not bullying you on Facebook. I left that group. That group is very toxic and I don't bully anybody on Facebook. But I'm not hearing.
I didn't say you.
Other than Councilmember Maddox, I'm not hearing any declarative, and you as well. I'm not hearing other people very declarative. I'm sorry. I'm hearing a lot of maybe we'll do it, maybe not. I haven't heard from you, Councilmember Cox.
I did not say maybe, Lynn. I said, I wanna know what the capacity is that the administration could implement. It might look different than what the proposal is. It may look different.
That's
I
fine.
hope that you're amenable to
That's
that.
fine, absolutely, but we
this
want to hear
first
that it's
step,
moving forward.
He's talking about taking a step that will move us towards a goal of getting something put together. So if you can accept that for now and we'll be hopefully back at our next
That's not what
meeting.
I'm hearing. What I'm hearing from him is I'll have a conversation with the law director to see what they think.
You're grossly misinterpreting what
Yeah.
I'm saying and you're twisting my words, and that's really regrettable when I'm sitting here helping you.
Can I just ask one question here, not as someone who knows what's going on in terms of procedure, but I just am thinking we got such expertise in this room. And I know how law departments can work, and they can really bottle things up. I just wonder, is it ever possible that a law department could work with some of the people in this room?
I'm not a lawyer. I don't work with the law
It's your
department,
I'm saying,
but
is that a possibility?
I absolutely don't know.
Could it be put off then? Could you ask them?
I'm sure he's gonna listen to this meeting, so I will make sure he hears this. Guys, we really need to move on.
We
Okay.
do appreciate this
Yes,
very much, Jen. We
Thank
really
you.
want to be ready for next steps and we're here to support them happening as quickly as possible. But thank you all for inviting us. We
I will
really
tell you,
appreciate
I'm not
that.
feeling very appreciated right now.
We
Just
volunteer.
like that. But I'm gonna work to get this done.
Michael and I have a lot of experience accepting public funding and implementing legal services. Our education funding is federal funding. And if there's any way that, I'm volunteering Michael, that either of us can share about what our experience has been working with public funds and implementing legal service providers, I'm happy to give you my email address. Anyone can reach out to me anytime.
I'd
Thank
like
you.
to have a conversation about the scope of representation and the parameters on that.
Sure.
Because that is one of my concerns.
Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely.
And just so it's, I mean, I'm open to this, but the devil is always in the details.
Yeah.
And as I've said before, whatever legislation or whatever we need to do, first of all, we need to have the funding to do it. We need to have the bandwidth, and it also, the legislation is gonna have to be drafted that makes sure that if it poses any jeopardy to us ending up on a list, that the funding will have to end. You know, those are my considerations, and I'm open to it, but the devil's in the details. But I have issues about the scope of representation, and given the amount of funding, the limited resources, I'm not sure I'm as comfortable with the broad list of people that you wanna represent. But let's have that discussion.
Sure. Would you like our email addresses?
Or how about I'll give you a card and you send it.
Perfect.
We're gonna move on to the next two agenda. Just together.
Yes, send me your email and we'll hook up. Okay.
Thanks for saying that. I
Sure, I
appreciate it.
was.
Thank you for being here and listening to
Good to
us
see you
and for
again.
being a supporter and also
I wanna see what we can
I'm
do,
sure
but
we have.
that is Councilman Hobbs
I'm sorry,
gives us the details.
Okay, it's nice to.
Thank you. How are you?
Good, so,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you. So this,
I'm gonna take off the.
thank you, so this meeting, yeah, so this meeting is still going on. And there's two other items, and this is an update on the Deer survey, and an update on the resident satisfaction survey. I've spoken with our communications department regarding both of those items. And they're gonna work with the administration, they're gonna be working with the administration to see if it's possible. I feel encouraged with our adjustment in government that we have support to move forward with these items.
Is it possible, realistic to think the deer survey could go out in this fall, or are you still unsure about the?
I can't put words in
Capacity
their
of
mouth, but
that.
I'm under the impression if Maricuda is on board and the administration, you know, again, there's a lot of things that are there's a lot of things I know they're juggling.
Cause it's
But
ready to fly though, the survey's ready to fly,
the
so.
survey's ready to go. The resident satisfaction survey, that is, yes, I do have a commitment that the Deer survey looks like we'll be able to get out. Okay, if it doesn't get out through our communications department, it'll get out through us, but they're very, very receptive. The resident satisfaction survey, our law department, you know, this is this is what I wish everybody was able to hear earlier. We gave that contract to them in April, okay, and we're just now working on it, okay? It's just logistically impossible to get some things done sometimes. And it's just not, this isn't a slight of the law department, it's everything fits together within the administration. It's just not one department's issue here. But they are working on it, and they're working on getting it out. They've asked good questions. I've spoken to our communications department about it, and they are very interested in seeing what the next steps are. So, and I'm optimistic that by the time we meet next, we'll be able to do something with that.
Thank you, Jim.
Any other?
I thought everybody was here for the deer. But I came in and I was like, wow, that's a big problem. I guess I'm just
There-
interrupting your discussion about the deer.
There will be a survey out
Yeah,
for
to
the deer that
the residents?
ODNR is doing
Yes.
to
Okay.
residents.
Okay,
Okay, we have the survey, it'll be published. And that is the first step to get data that we need in order to make a decision
yeah,
on whatever gets done. And hopefully we'll have a new mayor that will be able to buy in on whatever the decision is.
Okay.
The
I assume we all agree it's a problem? Yes?
Oh, is there a problem
I mean-
in our neighborhood? This
I was
is
just
a
making sure.
neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's a problem, and I think that was evident in our public hearing, but I guess the issue here is what do you how do you remedy the problem? And are we comfortable with some of the choices?
Yes.
And how big of a problem do
Yeah.
people believe this is?
Okay,
So
so that's gonna be vetted out, right?
that would be vetted out, and that is the goal of the survey.
Yeah, are we consulting other communities that do this? Because I know that everybody else does this, right?
So the survey is put out by ODNR,
Okay.
and they work directly with, Beechwood and Shaker and South Euclid
Yeah.
that have a consortium of people that deal with deer management. So
Okay.
I would be surprised if we chose to do something, we do it on our own. I think we would choose it, I think.
So-
But that's an administrative issue, and it's something that, whoever within this organization is chosen by the mayor to run it, because there's nobody assigned to this from the administration perspective.
So what's best case scenario if everything goes as planned? Is this something that happens in the springtime, or is it like a 2-year wait to get something like this done?
I think something, I think we'll have data in a month or two. We'll
Okay.
have a new mayor in a month or two. And I think a decision, if they do anything, could happen
Okay, relatively
maybe
soon.
in parallel with what Shaker and Beechwood does. But I gotta tell you, I still need to see the data.
Yeah.
I think we all need to see the data before we can move forward. So it's jumping the gun, but I think the issue here is we have these herds increase in size by 130% a year. And if you just quick. It's not quick math, I can't pull it out. I mean, if you have 1,000 deer at 4 years, you doubled your population. In 10 years, you have 10,600 deer.
Yeah.
If you
If
start
we
with
do
1,000.
Right,
And
that doesn't include my yard, it's not 800.
Are you feeding them?
No,
I mean
I mean,
intentionally.
my landscaping intentionally?
I don't think there's anybody in our neighborhood is overrun.
It
It's
is.
So-
bad.
so this
They sleep in my yard.
okay, so the cameras are still going.
I have a small
We need
yard.
to adjourn this meeting. So I'm adjourning this meeting at 5:59.
How are the surveys